Right, 5:30 having arrived, I'm going to call the meeting to order, and if we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we get started, I would note that Selectman Richard Pittman is not with us this evening. He's attending a family event and is excused from being here. And the next thing I would like to note is, although she is not on the agenda, I'm going to recognize Denny. Initially, I think she wanted to say a few words regarding COVID-19.
Good evening. Hi. Just wanted to give you an update with respect to some of the activities we've been working on with the town. We have posted some information on the website with respect to resources, and we've done some outreach to various partners within the community, including in at Deerfield Church, Deerfield Community Church, Longview School, and some other, and of course Deerfield Community School with respect to the guidance coming out of the CDC. So if residents, we encourage you to continue to stay updated with respect to information on both the CDC website and or the state public health website. Both those links are on our website. If anybody does not have computer access and would like information, they can feel free to call me at the town offices, 463-8811, extension 310, and we'd be happy to give them information. We've been sending information to department heads as well, and various town employees, and we have a department head meeting scheduled tomorrow morning, our monthly meeting, so we'll be doing some updates there as well. So that's kind of some of the things that have been happening on that front. And then the other thing that I just wanted to address was the issue of the Town Emergency Operations Plan grant,
Right,
the
the $8,000.
EMPG.
Yeah, if you could give us just a quick overview of that, we've got the paperwork to sign this
Sure.
evening. So.
So we have, I've been before you a couple of times now, just with permission to move forward. We received approval, and now this is the final grant language, the actual contract itself with the feds. And what it requires is approval from the board and then signatures of 3 board members with respect to the grant. This is for the Town Emergency Operations Plan, which has to be updated every 5 years. It provides us with roadmaps with respect to emergency response in town, and it also is one of those mandates that we have an updated EOP for receiving disaster assistance as well as other federal and state grants.
Great. Any questions for Denny? Seeing none, thank you much for your updates. And
Certainly.
Thank you, Denny.
okay, moving on to our next order of business. We have an appointment scheduled with Jason Franklin regarding a subdivision on Mount Delight Road and potentially Kettle Rock Road. And you're welcome to take Mr. Kelly to the microphone with you as well.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is more to do with the Kettle Rock portion of the...
Yes. We've been working with Skip here on some concepts. This is the latest one, but always have to change, and most likely to change. But if you can idea,
Thank you.
we'll pick it up. And I think there's just one picture. All right. So we met with the planning board a few weeks back regarding a potential, just for an informational meeting regarding a potential subdivision on Mount Delight and Kettle Rock Road. And following their recommendation, we're here meeting with the selectmen to see what your recommendations would be for improvements to Kettle Rock to allow this subdivision to go through. So it's pretty much it in a nutshell. So if you guys want to have any questions?
Well, I don't think, the board has not discussed it at all
Okay.
or reviewed site plan. At this point, I don't, drawing a blank as to the status of Kettle Rock at this point. Fred?
It's a Class 6. I just looked it up this afternoon. It's a Class 6, and it appears to be still owned by the town. There was no mention as to when it had been discontinued. I don't know if Jason has...
We have not found that information out. Rick Pelletier was going to look into that, so he had some ideas when it might have been, because it's Class 6 due to lack of maintenance. Yeah, so it's not actually closed or anything like that. So Rick is looking into that for us.
Okay.
And the planning board, the statutes that do allow for the planning board to approve a plan, basically, to effectively reopen that road. But the board felt that this is the selectmen's responsibility, the highways in the town, and therefore any recommendations should end up coming from the Board of Selectmen rather than the planning board.
Yeah, and I think the actual, having been, not recently, but having been through this in the past, there's a couple of options. We could make a recommendation, we could relay the road out as Class 5. What I'm thinking of, there are 2 residences at the end of Kettle Rock.
Yes.
Yeah.
One is Tim Godboy's house, who
Yep.
is a Deerfield resident, and the other beyond him is actually in Allenstown.
Okay.
But those folks use that road daily.
The other thing that comes to mind is, I don't know if we've got, typically we would have an agreement with the occupants of a Class 6 road like that, indicating whether they were gonna handle the maintenance or whether we were. If it's been discontinued, it sounds like a prior board may have been negligent with regard to that.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking to like Thurston Pond Road and Breakneck Hill, those roads, that type of thing. We met with the potential residents or developers, drew up binding legal paperwork that we had them sign regarding maintenance and our capabilities and expectations and their expectations. And I don't believe any of that exists for Kettle Rock, so.
Yep.
I think if you can give us a little bit of time to take a look at this, maybe get Mr. Pelletier involved, find out what he's found, and identify whether we've actually got anything on file with regard to maintenance of Kettle Rock Road, and then the board can move forward and make a recommendation. Unless other board members have different thoughts.
Nope.
Right.
Okay.
We'll be back in touch as soon as we're able.
Okay.
As far as your timeframe, do you have a particular date that you're looking for a response by?
Skip?
Sooner
Other
the
than as soon
better.
as-
Obviously, we're waiting for a direction forward. So, the sooner the better. One other thing I'll mention, I believe it would be relevant. We talked about the possibility of doing a Smith ordinance subdivision with laying the road, if you will, directly over the Class 6 road. So it's a little less requirement to build one of those. Just so you know, we've tried to kind of look at all the options there.
The, speaking to the Smith ordinance, just right now, the Smith ordinance specifically limits it to 4 lots.
Okay.
So you're looking at 3 lots in the subdivision plus 2 other lots being served by that road. So Smith ordinance would not work.
I should also point out that I've been absolutely inundated with people calling me. Obviously, the property's not listed for sale, haven't put any word out anywhere. People are hounding me. Can I buy a lot over there? I'm like, we don't even have an application at this point. But the point is, we have a very serious buyer who actually wants to buy, looking at your plan, he wants to buy 2 of those. And in fact, I have a verbal agreement with him that if we're moving forward in this direction that I think we're going to, we're actually not gonna look for 7 lots. He doesn't want 2 separate lots, he wants it all as one. It'll be effectively 400 feet of frontage and 10 acres or more, and I'm just telling you that for informational purposes, because I think the final plan that we present is going to be for 6 lots. But again, not cast in stone at this point, but obviously before I would do that with the individual, I'd have a substantial deposit and a written agreement from him that.
Okay, well, let us do our homework, find out what we've got for paperwork on file, if any, and then we'll need to decide whether we want to lay out a portion of the road, or relay it out, or how we want to proceed. The only real delay to that I'm aware of is if we do that, there are some public hearing specifications we have to follow before we change the status of the road.
Yeah, I think if we laid it out, beforehand, I'm sure Mr. Kelly wouldn't mind, but conceivably, we would be faced with a road that is far substandard. And I think the layout would occur after all the improvements were done.
We would accept it.
Yeah, basically.
I think we would have to, and I'm thinking back to, was it Mr. Pelletier that came in from Middle Road, adjacent to the old Ridge Road extension, and he ended up building an identical road
Oh,
50
yeah.
yards in
Yeah,
to
which
the
was-
road down to Thurston Pond, because there was great opposition to
Yeah,
the
right.
layout. But we had to hold a public hearing before we could determine whether we were actually going to lay that out and set standards forward. It was one of the few times, other than Northern Pass, that we've had this room completely packed with folks to let us know how they felt.
Yeah. Do you have a ballpark idea when we might hear back from you?
I would say that we're going to need at least 2 weeks to put together an answer. And if indeed the decision is that we'll lay out a portion of it, I forget the posting requirements exactly, but yeah, it would be at least another 10 days.
That's fine.
So we're probably looking at early April sometime?
Yeah.
Yep, okay, all right.
And just as soon as we've got some information, we'll let you know and
Okay,
go forward.
sounds good.
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, we have Andrea Bolton, and it looks like Tina St. Peter, with regard to the Deerfield Community School PTO Triathlon.
I'm Andrea Bolton. I am the PTO president at Deerfield Community School, and I'm here to ask permission to host our triathlon again this year. It will coincide with Old Homes Day on Saturday, April 15th. August 15th. Will include also the 5K that the Old Home Day festivities already had. We have our swim at VC Park. We have a 10-mile bike, and then a 3.5-mile run. And it all ends here at Town Hall, and just would like our permission to host it again.
Yeah, I think the board has generally been, looked very favorably upon the event. I think the only caveat that we would put out there is, that the chief of police is on board with it because of the road safety concerns, and that Nick at Parks and Rec is on board.
Yeah, the people that we ask permission from, or, ask help from, VC Park, Rescue, the police, Parks and Recs, you guys, the order that it's supposed to go in, I really don't know who's supposed to say yes first. So we hit Parks and Rec to let them know that we would like to join their festivities. We've asked you guys.
Yep.
And then the order goes like that. So we haven't asked the police yet, but we will. And we know now we have to hire them because of the new budget system. So that's in our budget for this year. They volunteered their time last time. So hopefully, as long as their day's free, we'll get everyone
Yep.
involved again.
Does the board have any objection to the triathlon, as long as?
I assume everything went well this past year.
It worked out
No,
well.
no issues?
It worked well for you? Nobody called us, so.
Yeah.
We had one biker who had an accident, but I feel like the way it was handled was really well. The way that we all found out people who need to be, and by the time I got to Cindy, she was already there, and the biker finished the race. Got up and got back on.
Well, I think you have the blessing of the select board, and, I would, if you've already cleared it with Parks and Rec and they're good to go, I would just coordinate with the police chief because of, the road use and the road safety.
All right, great, thank you.
And we'll be calling you too for rescue.
Thanks for coming.
Thank
you.
Okay, next up, we've got Kelly Roberts with a quarterly report and update from the Town Clerk Tax Collector's Office.
Good evening. So for revenue, I've collected over 96% of the 2019 regular property taxes committed to me by warrant. A chunk of that was collected in January because of the due date, but 96% we're in a good spot. I filed the MS-61 with DRA. That just needs to be audited. That's the biggest financial report that I have to prepare. And I'm confident in that. I submitted to you guys the leaning and deeding schedule. Did you all get that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I thought last year worked really well, so. And if all goes well, the lien date for unpaid 2019 taxes will be August 31st, 2020 of this year. And then the potential deed date for all unpaid liens 27 and older will be September 14th, 2020. So I moved it up a little bit this year because last year was really late, so moved it up a little bit. As far as some statistics, I thought it might be interesting to share with you since I brought in electronic payments, which is credit card, ACH, and transfer. Last year in tax revenue, we collected over $5,354,396 in ACH, so that's huge. And for credit cards for taxes, we collected $45,056, which is pretty good for credit card on taxes because the rate is less people pay their tax bill with a credit card because of the rate. On the clerk side, which is motor vehicles, dogs, everything else, we collected over $101,000 in ACH payments, and this is huge, $579,000 in credit cards for motor vehicles. So credit cards are very popular for motor vehicles. People don't think twice about swiping for their cars because they want to get those points. So that's kind of exciting. For elections update, we had a very successful presidential primary. We had over 1,822 ballots cast, 3,500 end-of-day voters, and we had a 52% voter turnout, which is fabulous for a primary. We're usually around 17 to 21. Expect the numbers to be very big this year. People are going to come out to the polls. There's going to be a lot of attention national, watching the results and how everything's handled. And we do a great job. And I just also wanted to thank Cindy McHugh, Cindy McHugh, Fire Rescue, and Dick Pittman for helping set up the polls. That was very, very helpful. We appreciated that a lot. The town and school election is coming up this Tuesday, March 10th. The polls are from 7 to 7 at the Town Hall on Church Street. The clerk's office will be closed for that election. I kept the clerk's office open for the primary. And I'll keep the clerk's office open for the state primary in September, but for the general town and the general November, I need all the help I can get at the polls, so I'll close for those two. So I have to be open this next Friday, the 13th, between 3 and 5 for the candidate recount period. So if there's a candidate on the ballot that wants a recount, I have to be open during those hours. Once that recount period ends, I will be available at 5:01 for anyone that wants to be sworn in immediately. So some people are excited to do that. And then the following Tuesday, March 17th, is the last day to request a recount on a question, like a warrant article. So that'll be the following Tuesday. We'll be hosting another rabies clinic and licensing event on Saturday, April 11th from 9 to noon. Dr. Elliot Moore from Dairy Animal Hospital will be administering the shots. He will be assisted by a couple of his techs. This event is fully staffed by volunteers. It's for cats and dogs only. It's a family-friendly event. Cost is $20 per shot. This will be we're trying to make it a cash-only event this year for the doctor. It's just easy at the end of the day to give him his money. The clerk's office will be open during this time to issue dog licenses, and we're really trying to stress that this is also a licensing event. We're trying to get as many dogs licensed as well. So we don't want anyone that comes, we want to make sure they're getting their dogs licensed. And this was very popular last year. Coming up for me, obviously, audits. I'll have my municipal and various state audits, and then ongoing all year will be election preparation. We'll have maybe a little bit of a break after this town election, but it's going to start picking up in the summer for us once the state filing starts. And then this time of year is when our spring workshops, so I'll be going to a couple of those, and that's where I stay up to date on my certification and law training, or law changes. And I'm sorry, I'm getting over a cold, so I'm just a little bit off. And then also an ongoing project I'm working on is a big archive project, which has kind of lots of different facets, but one of the areas we're looking at this year, last year we got the clerk record binder thing was a big part of that project. This year we're looking to catalog all the selectmen minutes, what do we have, and making a catalog for that and making them available. I'm talking about the old ones, and that's really all I have.
Great. Any questions for Kelly while she's here?
And a question on paying your taxes by credit card. Is there a fee that goes along with that?
Yeah, you can pay your taxes with a credit card, but it's 2.79%. So that adds up really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, if they pay their taxes, they'll use the ACH. It's only one time cost of $1.50.
What's the ACH?
That's like an electronic check. Like, so you get your checkbook out, and you go through a series of prompts, and you're basically putting in your checking account information.
Okay.
And
So you-
it's very safe and secure, and it's only $1.50, so
So it's not actually it's not being paid with your credit card then?
no.
Right, okay. I was just thinking about if you get, whether it's worthwhile to pay the 2.7% for the extra miles you would get for whatever credit card you're using.
It seems like people, when it comes to the points and the miles, from like 0 to 500, they're okay with swiping the card. Once you get over 500, people are like, oh, I'll
Mhm.
write a check or I'll pay cash.
Yep.
So.
Want to take a question? Yeah, sure. Mr. Rhodes?
On the ACH question, I was wondering what percentage of overall taxes, do you have that information? Thank you for taking
A little less than half.
a little less than-
Yeah, the reason why we received, it was 5,354,000. We set up, we worked with the banks to set up the transfer, and it's just a lot easier for them and for us, for them to transfer the funds into our account. And then we literally we get a file and press the button and pay the taxes. So, it's just been amazing. We used to have to enter every single check, and now it's just a click of a button, so.
Great. I'm glad to hear that you're organizing and presenting the old select board minutes, because things like we were discussing earlier this evening, particularly regarding roads, that type of thing, that is oftentimes the only record we've got of decisions made, and on more than one occasion with things I've been involved in, we haven't been able to find
Yeah.
any indication easily, so.
That's, if I had all the time in the world, I would just love to do all that type of clerk stuff as far as the archival stuff. Really, really love that. And it's important, and it's gonna get done. And I'm really excited about that. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice job, Kelly.
thank you.
Thanks for showing up, and I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we've got outstanding minutes from February 17th. We have not reviewed.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of February 17th.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Are there corrections, discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of accepting the minutes of February 17th as presented?
Aye.
Okay, just unanimous, John. Okay, let's see, what else do we have? Vouchers and payroll manifest. Got an accounts payable manifest in the amount of $1,049,334.53. Obviously, a large chunk of this is going to the school district.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
I'll hold off for a minute on the signatures. We've got some complicated looking forms here. Okay, turning to the signature file, I'm going to start with the Emergency Management Performance Grant that Denny spoke to us earlier about. This is it's a $8,000 total project. $4,000 of it is a grant from the state. $4,000 is a match from us. We've discussed this with Denny, and I believe we actually approved it, but I would still like to get a motion, if I could, to accept the terms of the Emergency Management Performance Grant as presented in the amount of $4,000 to update the community's local emergency operations plan. Furthermore, the board acknowledges that the total cost of this project will be $8,000, in which the town will be responsible for a 50% match of $4,000.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Discussion or questions regarding this? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there is a bunch of places to sign and initial. So I'm assuming that we are classified as the sub-recipients here. One signature piece and then a bunch of initialing.
I guess.
We've got a couple of items that don't require motions that I will start down the line. The first is a notice of intent to cut wood or timber, and this is to take 300 tons of whole tree chips and 40 cords of cordwood. Tax map and lot is 42053. It's 7.5 acres off of South Road, owned by Joseph Carpino. The second intent to cut is map 419, lot 76. Looking to take 300 tons of biomass chips and 4,000 board feet of oak and 25,000 board feet of white pines. Appears to be Anthony Brock's lot. Old form. Okay, this next item will require a motion. We have a report of wood or timber cut from Dalton Mountain Forestry, and this is for a cut on Avis Rosenfield and Timothy Mallett's property up off of Nottingham Road. We've got the report with certification of yield taxes assessed, and we need a motion to levy a timber tax in the amount of $1,075.42.
So moved.
Second?
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of collecting the timber tax?
Aye.
Aye.
There's 2 spots to sign, one on the certification of the assessment and the other on the actual levy. Okay, we have an abatement request that will require a motion, and this is basically to correct a mistake. Roscoe Blaisdell was billed for a land use change tax of $8,900, and should have been billed to, I'm going to say this is a typo because it's the Realty Trust. I'm assuming that's actually Realty Trust that was billed. And both our assessor and the town clerk are looking for us to grant the abatement. And I would need a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
What's is the full abatement, or?
Yeah, the LUCT fee was $8,900, and it should have gone directly to the Realty Trust and not Mr. Bleasdale.
Oh, okay.
And we have the backup from Avatar explaining what happened. I think that's the only place we have to sign. I'm assuming these other signature pages, oh, yeah, okay, there are multiple places we have to sign this. But we have a motion and a second. There's no question or concern. All those in favor?
All right.
Okay, appears to be unanimous.
Mr. Shute's going to miss all these signing of documents.
Terribly.
You stop by, we'll find something. for you, son. We have 3 requests for veterans tax credit or exemption. The first, name on the back of this. The first is for James Lee Gargano. He's seeking the standard veterans, all veterans tax credit of $500. Paperwork appears to be in order and has been forwarded to us from the town clerk's office.
I have a question on those. If assuming the town meeting votes in favor of the articles increasing that credit, would it be better for them to apply after that vote, or?
No, we'd actually looked into this, and I believe that this will roll automatically.
Okay.
The status of everyone that is filed
Okay.
prior as well.
Mm-hmm. So I'll make a motion to approve the veterans tax credit.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor of granting Mr. Gargano the all veterans tax credit of $500?
All right.
I have exactly the same request from Brian K. Durst, South Road. Paperwork appears to be in order, and he is also requesting the all veterans tax credit of $500.
We'll make a motion to approve the veterans tax credit for Mr. Durst.
Second.
There is a second. Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
All right.
These last two are a little quicker because they typed our names in. So. And I have a final veterans tax credit exemption application from Andrew Hanson, Pleasant Hill Road, Deerfield. This is seeking both the $500 veterans tax credit and the service-related total disability credit of $2,000. Again, everything appears to be in order with the paperwork, verification, and military service record.
Moved.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of granting both the $500 all veterans tax credit and the tax credit for service-connected total disability?
Aye.
Appears to be unanimous. We have a number of appointment forms that we need to make motions on and sign. The first would be to reappoint Cynthia McHugh as the Animal Control Officer with a term of office till April 30th, 2021.
So moved?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Are you willing to do this, Cynthia McHugh? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are you abstaining, Cindy?
Yes, I
Okay.
understand.
I'll vote in favor too.
You're gonna get a vehicle, too.
No, I can't quit now.
Okay, the next appointment form, and actually I'll do two of these together. The next two appointment forms are to first appoint Richard Pelletier to continue as our building inspector with a term to expire April 30th, 2021. And the second is to appoint Richard Pelletier to be our health officer with a term to expire April 30th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second on both these requests. Discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Continuing on, I'm going to pick up with Denise Grieg's appointment forms. We have a form seeking to reappoint Denise Gregg as Welfare Administrator with a term to expire April 30th, 2001. To appoint Denise Gregg as Co-Director of Emergency Management, term to expire April 30th, 2021. And request to appoint Denise Gregg as Deputy Health Officer, serving with Richard Pelletier, a term to expire April 30th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for those three appointments, all relating to Denise Gregg. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of appointing Denise Gregg as Deputy Health Officer, Welfare Administrator, and Co-Director of Emergency Management?
Aye.
Appears to be unanimous. And the last of the appointments is a request to appoint Kevin Barry as Co-Director of Emergency Management, term to expire April 30th, 2021, and he would be serving with the recently reappointed Denise Grieg.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Appears to be unanimous. Folder 2. Okay, moving to the correspondence file. We have a request from Courtney Torrey of the Lazy Lion, wondering who to speak to about the use of the park and ride. They have a wedding in September, I'm assuming at the family home right below this building and across the street from the park and ride, and would like to use that for excess parking, Saturday, September 12th. I think that unless the board objects, I would refer them to the town administrator and Ray, who would keep the schedule of any events happening at this building. I would have no objection to it.
My only concern would be soccer. What's going on if there is?
I've already checked with the Parks and Rec director, there's no interference at the time that they're running the wedding.
It's an
on that
evening
day.
wedding, and
Oh,
they
right.
anticipate needing parking from 3 PM until 10 PM. I should have also read that John checked with Parks and Rec, and there was no interference with programming that day. So,
Take back my question.
sorry. But as a selectman, would have no problem with this. I don't know if any other board
No.
members do. And it sounds like you've already checked the schedule, so. Okay, I would note that we signed a notice of intent to cut wood or timber by signature, 3 or 4 of us, on February 19th. This was someone who was in a rush and needed their intent signed. We also, majority of the board signed an accounts payable manifest in the amount of $53,327.62. The manifest is dated February 24th, 2020. We also signed a payroll manifest dated February 25th, 2020, The gross payroll was $79,509.50 with a net of $50,880.49. There are a number of other minutes and correspondence for your reading pleasure. I would also note, I think everyone got a letter. I've got a letter from the governor here, essentially explaining why he is right in regard to his thoughts on House Bill 1402 regarding metering, which I'll leave in here for anyone that wants to review that. We also have a letter from the Rockingham County Commissioners indicating that they want a fiscal year 2020 supplemental appropriation in the amount of $700,000 for an integrated delivery network and funding of such network. There will be a public meeting on February 21st at 1:30 p.m. in the Maureen Barrows Conference Room at the Rockingham County Nursing Home, which, side note, has the best milkshakes in Rockingham County, if you go in there for a meeting, at 117 North Road. Commissioners have requested that the funding source for the supplemental appropriation be current and from unassigned fund balance. This will have no impact on the tax rate. I'm interested to know what an integrated delivery network is, and there's no explanation of it, but I'm assuming this is more or less notice that they're doing this, and we can come hear the details if we'd like.
Well, I think I'd have to get in my time machine and go back to February 21st.
Right.
Good point. I was just thinking about the
A little
milkshakes.
late.
So it's probably a done deal unless.
Dang, we
heard
missed it.
differently. Okay, there's also, I'm gonna put an email in here, from a concerned, citizen, William, Monty, 1 Bow Acres, Deerfield, New Hampshire, just, raising some concern and asking about community strategy and implementation, with regard to dealing with coronavirus. And I think, we heard the first steps that are being taken, and
Everybody has one.
good, that's where we are. Okay, town administrators report.
Few updates for you this evening. First is, you're all aware we recently replaced most of the town computers due to the upgrade and lack of support for the old Windows operating system. And I have gotten several requests from staff that if we are not going to have any purpose for those computers, they would like to have them. I am going to check out if there's any residual value prior to this so that I can report to the board. And if we can get some value for them, then we'll try to recover that. If not, I'll let you know at the next meeting. Mark Young also wanted me to let the board know that he has posted the roads for weight limits. You may have noticed those out. The weather's warming up. I was alerted today that there was a typographic error on the recent voter's guide that went out under warrant article number 5, which had to do with the library full-time position. The narrative was a repeat of the warrant article regarding the COLA for town employees. So I have corrected the narrative. It's posted on the town website. It went out on the town Facebook. And we will have a placard on voting day for voters to see as they walk in to vote with this change, to notify them of the error in the voting guide.
I think just to follow up a little bit on that, at least one of the library trustees wanted to know if we could redo the voter's guide and remail it, and John apprised them of the fact that, no, we don't have the time, we don't have the resources, and also it would be extremely difficult to find a printer at this late stage of the game to do it, because they're printing everybody's municipal paperwork. It was also discussed whether a handout would be appropriate, and that it seemed like it might raise more question than having a large sign or something, as you approach the front of the building and the entryway to advise people. If anyone has any other suggestions, won't run afoul of legal voting requirements and information, feel free to let us know.
Let me know. And then last but not least, Bear Paw presented a plaque to the Board of Selectmen, which Andy will read, and once it's accepted, we'll hang in the George B. White Building.
Yes, Bear Paw Regional Greenways is basically presenting us with this Al Yeager drawing of a beaver. It's to be pen and ink of a very detailed beaver on either a dam or lodge that they're working on. With the inscription that Bear Paw Regional Greenways thanks the town of Deerfield with regard to the 178-acre Beauvair Conservation Easement. This remote town forest property is located within one of the original Bear Paw Greenways and contributes to over 1,000 acres of contiguous conservation land. The exposed ledges, historic cemetery features, and undeveloped watershed area make this a truly unique land. Generations of people and wildlife will enjoy this special property. And for those wondering, the Beauvair property is most easily accessed just over the Deerfield line into Epsom. There's a dirt road that goes off to the right. It has a bunch of strange signs telling people to keep out and various other things, but it leads to public land, and that stretch basically runs from that section of Epsom back over to Griffin Road. There's a large parcel of state, it's a hunting management area that's a couple of 300 acres in there, borders a few hundred acres at the Lion Zone, and there's the Freeze property comes in there as well. So there's really a large chunk of protected forest that is not broken up at all.
Yep.
I believe we also have another one of these paintings that Al had provided us for previously that somehow made its way off the wall and into storage, so we're gonna, John has already located that, and
Good.
we are going to put both of them on
Yeah.
public display. I would also note that the town annual reports are now out. Everyone's got one this evening, and if you need one, I assume that folks can stop in and see the town administrator or Pete and get a copy during the day. They'll also be available at election time, certainly.
And it's also posted online.
Great. Other unfinished business from the board?
This is probably just a follow-up to what we had discussed with regard to Kettle Rock Road, and I was wondering if we should get an opinion from town council as to timing-wise with regard to the, if we laid it out as a Class 5 road prior to the improvements being made, would a developer conceivably be in a position to say to the planning board, well, this is now a Class 5 road and it
Yep.
now is officially frontage?
I think there's a very specific series of options and process
Okay.
that we'll follow, and we need to talk with Bart and have that, so as we determine what we want to do, if anything, we follow that process. And I think the last time we went through this was the development I mentioned off
Yeah.
of Middle Road that was Mr. Pelletier's development.
Right.
We decided not to lay the Class 6 road out
Yep.
and made him construct a new road. New business? I am going to mention, we do need to go into non-public session. I don't anticipate it will be for a long time, but, and I believe that's under E, John?
Yes.
So if I could get someone to make a motion.
I make a motion, go into non-public session under 91-A:3, 2C, consideration or negotiation of pending claims or litigation which has been threatened in writing or filed by or against the public body or any subdivision therefore or by or against any member thereof because of his or her membership in such public body until the claim or litigation has been fully adjuncted or otherwise settled. Any application filed for tax abatement pursuant to law with any body or board shall not constitute a threatened or filed litigation against any public body for the purposes of this subparagraph.
Second?
Yes.
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 Yes, and myself agree, so we will be going briefly into non-public session.